Hey guys, and welcome to or back to the Paws in Pursuit podcast with your host Summer Clark. So today I'm going to be talking about young dog agility, and I'm going to be covering things like training, time frames and safety, all to do with young dogs. Foundations, bringing your dog into agility at a young age, stuff like that, which is still all quite raw for me as I recently did all of that with Arrow, so I have lots of insights. Again, I'm no expert, however, I do have a lot of experience and this is all just opinion based and, like I said, my own experience. Another point is I'm going to try not to go after every single word because I'm trying too hard now because Amelia, shout out if you're listening, Amelia came up with the game of take a shot every time someone says on the podcast, and we don't want her, I did it again, see, take a shot Amelia. We don't want her passing out of alcohol poisoning, so I'm going to try not to say as much. Oh my god. Oh, please ignore me. Anyway, so I'm going to say so instead of now. I've decided. I have my judging course tomorrow and Tuesday. This is Sunday when I'm recording this. So when you are watching this, if it's on the Wednesday when it comes out, then I've just completed my judging course. So I suppose you'll see whether I'll pass or not. Fingers crossed. Hopefully I do. But I'm really excited. It's going to be a tiring few days, long day. But yeah, I'm super excited for that. Hence why I'm recording this podcast episode early, because I normally do it over Monday, Tuesday, and then finish it up Wednesday. But it's Sunday and the next 2 days are off limits. Then I have training Wednesday, so there's no way I'd get it up. If I waited till Wednesday, it wouldn't happen. And I'm committed to the grind of the podcast. Weekly on a Wednesday. It's happening. I'm too stubborn not to let it be every week. So let's get into the episode. Also, next week, a week today, on the Wednesday, when this episode comes out, I'm going to do an episode all about my judging course and just go through what it entailed, what kind of things you have to do. So if any of you guys that are interested in becoming a kennel club judge and would like to do your own judging course, you know what it entails, take a bit of the nerves off. Shout out to Layla. I saw that Layla did her judging course recently, so I messaged her about it and she told me roughly what it entails. Obviously you get the timetable, but I didn't have it when I asked her, just to ease the nerves, kind of know what's coming. So I'm going to do an episode all about that, so stay tuned for that. You don't want to miss it. So it'll be a little insight into my judging course, stuff like that. So yeah, let's get into today's episode. So young dog agility. Lots of you wanted to know about this because obviously I went through all of it with Arrow when he was little. So the first thing you guys wanted to know was my take on grade appropriate courses and skills. So obviously young dogs go in at grade 1 or 2 depending on whether you've had a dog previously reach above grade 3. So if you have, then the dog goes in at grade 2, blah blah blah. But yeah, so in my opinion, grades 1 to 3, I think they should be flowing, fast, open, straightforward, encourage drive and only require basic handling. So I don't want to say helter-skelter or steeplechase, but I do want to say it should be easy, to be honest. It should encourage the dog's confidence because young dogs need to gain confidence and experience at that age. So these courses should promote that over absolutely anything. Young dogs in those grades at those ages, they don't need to know loads of intricate handling and skills like that. Often if we get them to do those too early on before they found their confidence and found their feet on the course, they can, get more nervous, shut down potentially depending on the character of the dog. Or if it's not a nervous dog, just get overwhelmed. Their brain can go, too much overload. So you want to keep it nice and simple and you want to encourage speed and drive and confidence. They are the main things that I think should be in a 1 to 3 course for young dogs. Again, that kind of ties into my conversation about judging earlier. But anyway, and then 4 to 5, often young dogs are still 4 to 5. So again, it should be flowing, fast and open, just like the 1 to 3. But you also want to see the start of maybe some traps. So you want to see maybe a tunnel entrance that shouldn't be taken nearby. So you start to introduce that sort of discrimination between obstacles, really listening to cues, stuff like that. Start to introduce that, but not too many. Obviously, you want a little bit of need for independence, whereas 1 to 3, you shouldn't want the dog to be trying to be too independent. You should want to be helping the dog the way around to build confidence. But 4, 5, start to introduce that need for independence. So maybe sending and having to move off, stuff like that. And then a little bit of need for above basic handling. So that could be skills such as getting a blind in, front cross, basic skills like that. Rear crosses, ketchkers, and backside. So a few of those. Again, they are quite basic skills. So, instead of just that steeplechase kind of course that you might see in grade 1 to 3, start introducing some bits where you may have to do a little tight turn or a blind here and there, or, start to mesh your handling into the course with your dog as well. And then obviously you get to 6, 7, and I am doing all the grades because young dogs, it depends on how quickly the dog progresses. A lot of young dogs that are still classed as young dogs do make grades 6, 7 quite early on. So Ethel did progress quite quickly in the grades, and to be honest, I know Arrow's 3.5, but he's still fairly young. I still think of him as a young dog, and he's grade 6. So for 6, 7, again, you want it flowing fast and open, but you also want it to be trappy. So 6, 7, you want there to be plenty of traps where the dog has to avoid obvious, other obvious obstacles and listen to the handler. It should require independence, so this is where you see things like tunnels under dog walks, where you have to send and you be somewhere else and send the dog through the tunnel and then to do a skill while you're running, trying to get around the dog walk. So the dog has to form skills, at a distance from you, and then they should also require acceleration and deceleration, so things like sprinting, accelerating through a straight tunnel and then having to decelerate into a tough weave entry, stuff like that. And then, to be honest, 6, 7, come on, it should require advanced handling in the sense of 4 to 5 skills, what I mentioned above, plus things like Germans, SERPs, threadle slices and threadle wraps. So threadle slices and wraps are quite tricky, and also Germans and SERPs, but with you running off. So cue the German. Don't wait for the dog to come over the German, otherwise you'll be too far behind, So a course where you have to do the German and run off while the dog's completing it, stuff like that. So 6, 7 should really test those skills, I think. Because to be honest, you don't want to make it too easy for dogs to go up the grades too fast, otherwise they're all there. Takes away the challenge, kind of, and a lot of the fun is in the challenge. And then Champ obviously is just 6, 7 courses plus more of it, if that makes sense. It's like 6, 7 on steroids, so just for grade 7, if that makes sense. So take all what I said and put it in a Champ course plus more of it, if that makes sense. So yeah, that is kind of the grade appropriate courses and skills that I personally think you should see on courses. But I just realised it is grade 2 that a dog goes in, isn't it? I think it's, if you've got a dog that's reached grade 3 or more, your new dog goes in at grade 2. That is correct, isn't it? They don't go in at grade 3, do they? I've literally just had this with Aaron, I can't remember. I'm pretty sure it's 2. I'm getting really confused. I have a short-term memory loss, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, I hope... I'll just do it again. If anyone's been counting my ums, please let me know. If anyone counts my ums through this whole episode, I will literally buy you a gift and send it to you, because that's impressive. So now let's move on to training of young dogs. So again, a lot of this is things that I have mentioned before anyway. So don't skip foundation training. Foundation training is absolutely vital. I didn't do tons of it with Ethel because the club I trained at with Ethel when I started her out didn't know about foundation training either. And I really noticed a difference between how Arrow developed as an agility dog versus Ethel. Ethel did go up the grades faster because she wasn't nervous, whereas Arrow was nervous, so I kind of had to hold him back because of that reason. But the understanding is just completely different. Arrow has now developed skills that Ethel didn't develop before, like independent weave entries, stuff like that. Obviously, running contacts, all those things. So, from my experience, a dog that is taken through the stages of foundation training is a much more successful agility dog in the future. So that's just from my personal experience. Again, there's so much to cover about foundation training, and my online coaching services offer in-depth guidance with this. So you can see that on my website and on my social media, so I'll quickly put that here now if you want to go check that out. All my services are linked on my website here. If you're watching on the YouTube video, it's here, and otherwise it'll be in the description below on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But I do offer very in-depth help with foundation training if any of you are interested in that. I can't be giving all of my business content away for free, But foundation training, make sure you do it, do your research, sort it out, get it done. And it's so much fun as well. Like, why would you want to skip that? It's so much fun. You know, shaping, stuff like that, watching the dog figure things out for itself, learning new things, stuff like that. So the obvious that you'll all know anyway is no jumping or weaving until 1 year. Obviously, it's weaving and jumping is unnatural movements for the dog's body, and you don't want to be putting that strain on their joints and muscles and ligaments and tendons and stuff like that until they're fully developed, because it can cause issues such as growth plates not to close properly and stuff like that, which can cause issues in the future, which could, you know, end or sort of cut short a dog's agility career, and most importantly just cause it, you know, to be uncomfortable or in pain, which you just don't want at all. That just defeats the object of doing such a fun and, you know, healthy sport with your dog. So obviously you can start wings and channel weaves earlier than a year. So channel weaves is literally just running through the weaves. You know, that's not a strain as long as you keep them open. Obviously just don't get your dog twisting until it's developed, but channel weaves, you can start that. Wings, you know, you can start doing wing work, you know, wing wraps, stuff like that. Get the dog interacting with and around a wing, stuff like that, to progress. So when you do start properly weaving and jumping, the dog already has the basic understanding, and all it needs to really learn once it hits that year milestone is to jump over a pole. But that should be easy because you've already done the wings, so it knows, again, it just has to jump instead of just run round. And then weaving, if the dog, you know, is doing channel weaves, again, once the dog's got channel weaves in its head, closing it is quite quick and quite simple for most dogs, so that's not a problem. So just remember not to progress too quickly for the dog's, you know, physical well-being and stuff as well. Excuse me. So progress at your dog's pace. So don't progress with a skill until your dog has a full understanding, and every dog is different. So there's no point rushing. Again, just if your dog doesn't understand something, don't think, oh, I need to get this skill taught faster for whatever reason, or get too far ahead and excited of yourself and think, oh, you know, my dog has to learn this so I can move on to a more exciting skill of this. Don't rush those foundations, make sure they're in place, and wait until your dog has a solid understanding of them before you progress that skill into something harder. Otherwise, you're just going to have really sort of sketchy foundations and skills that don't benefit your dog in the long term when it starts doing proper agility on a course. So just make sure all of those foundations are solid before you progress. You know, if you make it harder too soon, your dog is just not going to understand anything else that comes after that. So just take your time, and obviously don't rush or compare your dog to others. Now, this is a big one, and I've done it in the past and it got me nowhere, and I've learned not to. And I've said it before, but just don't compare your dog to other people's dogs. You know, every circumstance is different, every partnership is different, you have all the time in the world, and everyone's training journey is unique. So there is no time bomb. I've covered this before. There is no ticking time bomb on how fast your young dog starts doing agility competitively, or wins this, that, or this, that, or this, that. You know, there is literally no rush. If your dog takes until it's 5 years old to get to grade 7 and win champ or whatever, that's fine. Like, it might even be more than that. It might be 7. Like, as well, if you haven't rushed it and your dog is in sound condition physically, then there's no reason that they can't go till they're 10, 11, 12, stuff like that. So there is no rush, and actually the slower you go, the more likely your dog is going to have a nice, long and safe agility career. So yeah, that is that. And protect your dog's confidence at all costs. So this is a very fine line, because obviously you need to, like with Arrow, I had to work him through that that anxiety that he had, so that he learnt that, you know, it isn't harmful, and, you know, if you don't make them work through that, then they're never going to learn that it's fine, and they're never going to grow and develop in confidence. But at the same time, don't put your dog in situations that are obviously going to be harmful to their confidence, if that makes sense. And just because you have a really confident-seeming young dog, don't assume that it's bulletproof. There are still things that can easily trigger, you know, break down that confidence and trigger them to, you know, flight or whatever, fight or flight. All dogs have the same basic instincts, so just beware. You know, young dogs are still learning about the world and how to interact with it and their surroundings, so don't put them in a situation that is very risky as far as scaring them or something. That won't build their confidence, that'll just break it. You know, be gentle as far as confidence building goes, expose them to new environments, but, you know, as long as you're pretty sure that they are going to have, you know, you need to make sure that they're going to have a good experience doing the thing that you're sort of pushing them to do, if that makes sense. So it's common sense, just be sensible with it. So an example of that is stick to jumping classes with a nervous dog before introducing agility. So I did this with Arrow, hence why it took him a little bit longer to progress in those early stages than some other dogs. So I just did jumping classes at competitions, and I only introduced agility once. His jumping was fully confident, so it takes me back to what I said about not progressing a skill until your dog has fully understood the previous skill. Don't progress until your dog has understood what you've just been doing. So I was doing jumping, and I waited until Arrow's confidence was spot on in the jumping to then bring him into agility. And then obviously his confidence went slightly backward because of contacts all of a sudden, but that was okay because he'd already got that solid confidence in his jumping runs, so he could deal with a tiny bit more, you know, a bit more incremental pressure and stress of the agility. And then you just have to build on each step. Don't throw them in the deep end, just build on it. Again, it's common sense really. And then confidence is hard to build and easy to break. So this is something I've learnt with Arrow. Confidence is hard to build. It takes a while. It does happen. You can do it easily, you know, if you just keep trying. But, well, I say you can do it easily. No, it's hard, but you can achieve it, is what I'm saying. It takes a while and it takes a lot of work, but you can through work. Hard work, but work. It'll happen. But confidence is easy to break. So, you know, especially once you've built that confidence, you don't want to put it back at risk. You don't want to have to go back 3 steps when you've just built your dog up to a confident position. So once you've built it, try not to break it to get it broken again. And at the same time, if your dog is naturally confident, be grateful, but don't think, oh, my dog can face whatever and not lose its confidence. Young dogs especially, no, that can happen. Anything can knock their confidence out of the blue. So just protect them at all costs. Don't keep them from all these situations you want to expose them to, but at the same time, don't be daft and put them in situations that will just scare them or is likely to scare them, if that makes sense. So that is all about sort of the early stage of training. Like I said, my online coaching does cover all of these things, so get in touch if you're interested and I will send you my price list. But yeah, so the next thing is equipment and course design safety. You guys wanted to know about my take on this for young dogs. So to be honest, let's be honest, lines and angles onto and off of equipment should always be safely achievable for the dog, no matter the grade. So that is, like I said, flowing fast, open. I think all grades should have courses like that. There is no exception really. So, you know, but this is especially important in those grade 1 to 3 classes, as young dogs still need to learn how to move in the safest and most efficient way for them. So, you know, they haven't been doing agility for very long. They need to learn how to most efficiently and most comfortably move their own individual bodies. You know, like Arrow, for example, is a very long dog, so he has to, the more he does the weaves, for example, the more he learns, oh, my body feels best and I get through these weaves most comfortably doing this, using this footing or this stride or whatever. Dog walk, same thing. You know, he's learning how many strides to comfortably put in to achieve the criteria. So it's not all about just doing the task, it's about finding out how that individual dog best does it and what method of movement suits that dog best. So that's the same as jumping, you know, how the dog jumps and wraps the wings and stuff like that. So you've just got to let your dog kind of figure that out for itself almost, hence why I think grade 1 to 3 classes should be nice and easy, to give the dog that space and ease to sort of, yeah, ease into it and just find its feet. So that is pretty much what I reckon on that. Like I said, flowing fast, open and straightforward courses in grade 1 to 3 classes promote safety as young dogs find their feet and gain experience. Like I said, that should be what doing agility with a young dog is about in those early grades. Shouldn't be trying to rush. It shouldn't be about trying to rush, it shouldn't be about trying to get up the grades quickly. It should be about building that confidence, experience, you know, having fun and letting the dog just explore its own movement and stuff like that. So obviously in 1 to 3, they should have less twisty manoeuvres required. Again, dogs are potentially still, you know, developing, not just physically but mentally as well. They're definitely still mentally developing, that's a big part of it. So, you know, There shouldn't be loads of twisty, turny, tight things in 1 to 3 courses, I don't think. And obviously as far as course design goes. And, you know, the less twisty manoeuvres required at this early age, the less chance of injury, to be honest. You know, you really try and protect those young dogs' bodies and minds when they're young as much as possible, I think. But again, every dog's different. Some dogs might be completely fine at a really young age. They might develop faster physically. They might, you know, it depends on the size of the dog too, the breed, everything. Just depends on that individual dog. So as long as you know your individual dog, then that's all you can do, really. So yeah, that is my podcast episode on young dog agility. I hope you enjoyed it. It's a bit of a shorter one, again, but like I said, it is one you wanted to know my opinion on. But if you have any further questions about this topic, then feel free to DM me or reach out on any of the social medias and give me a follow on all of those. I'll put those here on the YouTube video and down below in the description on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you could also leave me a rating or a review, hopefully 5 stars, because hopefully you're loving it, on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, that would be amazingly appreciated. Thank you so much for everyone that does that. And also keep letting me know things that you like, things that you dislike about the podcast. Constructive criticism I always take very well. I do enjoy it. And it means a lot to me because it means I can, you know, really make this podcast everything that my listeners want it to be. So yeah, that is today's podcast. I will go. I have to go to work soon, and then I have to get ready for my judging course over the next few days. So I'll try and update you guys on stories and stuff like that about how it's going. But also, yeah, make sure you follow me on all the socials because I am active on there every single day. Stories, posts, etc. But yeah, so I hope you enjoyed it, and I will speak to you all next Wednesday when I talk all about my judging course experience. So look forward to that. You don't want to miss it. Bye, guys.